James, final stretch of the season,
Oh,
crunch
Jack.
time, crunch time, Champions League. It's exactly the kind of place that we want to be in. For you and me in particular, I think this is where you and me really bonded when we were at uni as well. It's like European football. This is where we want to. We're where we want to see it. Premier League's great. All these other domestic leagues are great. Obviously, everybody has their favourites, but this is where the Titans clash, right? This is where the best of the best battle it out. I just want to keep
100%.
everybody up to date, I guess, with our kind of scoring and stuff at the moment. So I had a 2 point lead over James in the group stages. As we got through kind of the first few knockout games as well, I've extended my lead by an extra point, and the only difference maker that really kind of made it across the board was me picking Chelsea to go through over Dortmund in that clash. So it's currently 18 to me, 15 to James. So with time running out, James has got a little bit of work to do. But again, when the
A
lights
claw
shine
back.
brightest, this is where James comes to play. Um,
Listen,
there are 4 games, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. There are 4 games. So this will not be some sort of quick fire, throw a couple of points out and then give you a score type of video. James and I are going to try and break down these games a little bit better and maybe talk about a couple of little points that maybe some other people aren't thinking of as well. So we will break this down a little bit deeper. And I think it's a pretty good and kind of interesting place to start, James. Benfica versus Inter. Now, I don't want to kind of set you up for a fail here or anything, but I don't know if this match is necessarily what people think it's going to be. I mean, I haven't checked the odds on this, but I don't know who the favorite's going to be going into this. Would you agree with that?
so I was on the phone, Jack. I totally agree with you here because it looks straight. It
Let
looked
me
quite straightforward.
let me check actually because I'm interested. But go ahead.
It looks quite straightforward to the point of view. The first thing you're going to think, the strongest team there, Inter Milan. They won the league a few years ago. You know, a few more of their players like Lukaku, Martinez, and Dzeko. But this Benfica team, Jack, there's nothing to be sneezed at here.
Mm-hmm.
There really is nothing to be sneezed at. Jack, the fact of the matter is, I'm pretty sure they were in a group. I get it. PSG aren't that great when you actually
Benf-
deep it.
Benfica favourites to qualify.
Wow.
Not
And
by a lot,
Jack,
not by a lot, but by enough for you
listen,
to go, oof.
well, but Jack, listen, let's break it down. First of all, Jack, Jack, in the Champions League game, yeah, against Club Brugge, who we thought that it was going to be close, Jack. Yeah, Club Brugge, I get it. They're not the biggest side in the world, but Benfica made it so easy, Jack. They won 7-1 on
Yeah.
aggregate. You know, they are not a team to be messed with. They finished top of the group with PSG in it, Jack. You know, PSG and Juventus in it. This is Jack. This is a team that people really, really, really need to um look at and appreciate what they're about. You know, so I don't know how you look at this, but I sort of lean with the odds makers just a little, Jack. But I know, Jack, you are the Serie A guy, so maybe you can kind of convince me why Inter
No,
should go through here. But
I can't, mate. I really can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think Benfica are going to blow them out and that it's going to be some wild thing here. But James, I mean, like, I just want to read out because I looked at this recently. The Inter Milan last 5 games, like, it is not pretty at all, and that they're in serious danger, especially with Roma playing some kind of nice football here for some reason at the moment. Obviously, only when Sampdoria are down to 10 men, but still, Roma might be creeping back into the top 4 here if Inter don't pull their socks up. Inter have lost 3 on the bounce. Of their last 5 games, they've lost 4 of them. These aren't draws. These aren't like, oh, it's a shame they missed a chance to get all 3 points. It's like, no, they're losing these games, right? I
mhm.
think Fiorentina was in there. I'm pretty sure Spezia was in there as well. Obviously, the loss to Juventus again is somewhat, I guess, understandable. But like, James, these are games that they really should be winning. And obviously, it's domestic form. It's not quite the same. If you're coming up against in a European sense, a pretty hot team with talented guys in there as well. Like even some guys who I think were heavily linked with the Premier League at a certain point as well, like David Neres as well. We remember him obviously from
Mhm.
Ajax, right? He's a
Ajax, yeah.
talented kid. He's now Benfica playing his trade. Everybody wants to talk, of course, about Gonzalo Ramos. You've still,
Ramos, who's an absolute killer.
yeah,
People really need to watch out for him.
and you've got experience with like Otamendi. Florentino Luis is a nice like holding midfielder in there as well. So yeah, this Benfica team are not to be sneezed at. And again, yes, Inter Milan playing at their best are going to be able to beat this team, because I think just to a certain extent across the board they're just better, but
Hmm.
they're not playing it well at all, and nothing would suggest to me that that's what's going to come out and happen. The big one, though, James, is this first leg. Benfica need to leave this first leg with a victory, because I think if this is a draw or a loss heading back to Italy, I'm obviously going to take Inter to qualify. I think Benfica have enough of a threat to put 2, maybe 3 goals past this Inter team, and this Inter team, I don't think have the confidence to go to Portugal and try and play with them. It is going to be a, hey, let's just sit, let's just hold back, and then let's try and catch them on the break if we can. They're not going to go to Portugal to actually try and play toe-to-toe football. And I think Benfica will have enough to break them down and do some damage. So I hate to agree with you straight away, especially on one that's kind of close. I think Benfica are going through too, mate. I really do.
Jack, listen, you mentioned Inter Milan a little bit more, especially the fact that Antonio Conte was there and like he won the league, and also the players there. But again, this team that you look at from Benfica, it isn't crazy, but Jack, they got some decent players there. Jack, Rafa Silva, unbelievable player. Gonzalo
Ronaldo,
Ramos, Jack, you know, you mentioned there, Gonzalo Ramos. Don't be surprised if we see another Darwin Nunes sort of price tag flaunt about right now, because Jack, this guy is a serious killer.
yeah,
You know, I think he scored like 6, 7 goals in the Champions League this season.
that
Scored a hat trick
helps.
in the World Cup. Otamendi, I get it. People may say he failed the City. I don't know. I don't think he failed the City. I felt like he was a decent defender. Um, Actually, we also have João Mario. I think did he play for West Ham? João
Yeah, yeah. I
Mario.
think it might have even been on loan, but yeah, he did.
So Jack, they got some players there that that'll cause serious trouble. Like as I said, you look at the Portuguese league, Jack. They are 10 points clear at the top. Yeah, and it's not like, okay, let's say they had a bit of luck. What's it called again, in the Champions League, in like they're kind of struggling in the league. No, Jack, they're flying in the league, and they're also in like their league form reflects in the Champions League. They didn't just squeak their way through in the last 16. They broke the doors down and beat the brakes off Club Brugge.
But
And
you know what's really interesting as well? We're obviously in this time of year as well, where we're starting to have players look at their contracts, look at where they're going to be playing next season and stuff. There's a very interesting dilemma between the Inter Milan players and the Benfica players. Benfica players need to play their best football so that they can get the best contract they can at Benfica, or a better contract at Benfica, or they can be sold for a lot of money to a Premier League team or an elite European team. Inter, a lot of those players will kind of feel like they've made it, kind of made it. You're playing for Inter Milan, you're trying to win a Scudetto, right? All this kind of stuff. Lukaku, what's going to happen with him in the off
I
season?
think it's already confirmed that he's going back to Chelsea, Jack.
Is
Edin
Lautaro
Dzeko isn't getting younger.
No, is Lautaro Martinez going to start thinking about his future? Right? Are Inter going to prepared to reject more offers for somebody like Nicola Barella? Bastoni, I think, has been agreeing his new deal as well. I think Milan Skriniar has already confirmed that he wants to go to Paris Saint-Germain as well. So is he going to work overly hard to potentially damage himself for his start at PSG? It's a lot of moving parts, but Benfica, it's kind of in a positive way, and for Inter, it's in a negative sense. So actually, the more I'm talking about it, I'm kind of talking myself into being more confident with Benfica. Anyway, clip that, because Inter will now blow Benfica out, and me and James don't know what we're talking about.
You know what?
Okay.
I'm gonna hold that one. I'm gonna go for Benfica. But Jack, let's move on.
Yeah, we'll start with you. I'll let you kind of lead the breakdown of this one off. I It's kind of the one I'm most interested in, but then also kind of not in a way as well. I think it's the one that most people will be interested in. Manchester City. Can Pep and this Man City team finally get it done in Europe? Bayern Munich, though, and a fired up Thomas Tuchel at the helm as well. Pep, Bayern, there's a bit of history there as well. Let me know what you think on Man City Bayern.
What a game, Jack. What a game. What, like, probably one of the games that I wanted to see them. That and probably City v Napoli. Jack, there's so many ways that can go here. I feel like the fact that like you had to switch between Nagelsmann and Tuchel is a big, 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 big thing. And people may say, "Oh, Nagelsmann was unfortunate to lose the job." Of course he was, but I don't think with Nagelsmann like at the helm that they would have went on to win the Champions League, Jack. I feel like in these sort of games, this is what they're going to get unstuck in. Yes, they beat PSG, fair play to them. But as I said, Jack, when you really break down this PSG team, Jack, it's a poor side. It really, Jack, it really is a poor side. But two clashes of like the Titans. When you look at the way Bayern are set up right now, they don't have a real number nine. They have what's his name again?
Chup
Chuba
Choupo-Moting.
yeah, they have Chuba Motin as the striker. He isn't an out and out number nine. Is it going to make you like be scared? But when you look at it from Jack, from this, they got players like Kingsley Coleman, yeah, that can exploit space. Um um Leroy Sané, Sadio Mane, and Serge Gnabry, all these players that can exploit space. Manchester City will push on. Manchester
Yeah.
City will squeeze up the pitch. Manchester City will try and keep the ball. And the one thing I seen Thomas Tuchel was able to do when he played Pep Guardiola in the Premier League and also in cup competitions, he was able to exploit the space. You've seen it in Chelsea in like in a semi-final with Timo Werner in the FA Cup. We've seen it in the Champions League where if you leave spaces available for players as quick as they are, they will exploit it, you know?
Well, yeah, I think you've just kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, what do you need as a footballer when using space? What do you need? Well, you don't really need too much technical ability. I'm not saying they're not technically gifted players because they are. What's the main thing you need? You need physical attributes. If you look at this Bayern Munich team, like basically across the board, they've physically got very imposing, very impressive players from back to front. I mean, even Manuel Neuer at his age is a bit of a specimen. The likes of Leon Goretzka, Dio Upamecano, Matis Delict, right? Serge Gnabry, Sadi, like you got these fast, strong players who also then have the talent to back it up as well. The difficulty for me is Pep going to have that one little nuance, that one little thing that he can just expose and just do something because we know that is something that he's capable of. And again, likes of Erling Haaland, likes of Kevin De Bruyne, James, all you need from those guys is like one or two moments and the game is different. That's why, in a way, breaking down players with this level of talent, because like, listen, I'm not trying to disrespect the Bayern Munich players too much, but like Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland are like world 11 players, right? Starting world 11 players. I don't know how many starting world 11 players this Bayern Munich team have. You know, the days of prime Muller, Lewandowski, Ribery, Robin, they're kind of long gone at this point. Joshua Kimmich is probably their best player at this point, and that's not really in a position where he can influence things too much, whereas Haaland and De Bruyne can be game changers.
My thing with that is that, Jack, you mentioned that, but this is how I would look at it, is that Manchester City can't, I don't think they will be as effective with less of the ball. You have two teams who are used to dominating the ball. Yeah. But I look at one side, Bayern Munich can do less with less possession. I mean,
Right.
can do more with less possession. So you
Right.
give them 30% possession. You mentioned the athletes there, Jack. If they like you know what Thomas Tuchel is going to set up with. I think he's going to go for the back three. I'm not sure how it's going to look like Willie drop Kimmich in there. But Jack, you mentioned a few
Yeah.
there. Leon Goretzka, Kimmich, physically opposing guards who can think about it, who can screen the back three or like back two, or I mean back three or back four, stop the gaps from appearing. And when they do win that ball, Jack, yeah, if they can hit, if it's a Sadio Mane, if it's a Kingsley Coman, whoever, and like City do pull on that press, running back, Jack, is one of the worst things a defender doesn't want to do.
No.
And Jack, when you have these players, you know, just waves of attack of really, really quick players. It's so difficult
Yeah.
um to defend against. But On the other hand, let me talk a little bit more about City. And you mentioned the game changers they have there. In my opinion, I believe Bayern have more game changers than Man
Okay,
City. From
fair enough.
Jack, from the point of view, you mentioned Kevin De Bruyne, you mentioned Erling Haaland, two like big
Elite.
time game changers,
Yeah,
and Riyad Mahrez. I do think Riyad Mahrez is a game changer. Gundogan too, but when you look at Gnabry, I think Gnabry can win a match. I don't think Grealish can win a match. I think
no,
Kingsley Coman can win a match. You know, I think Sadio Mane can win a match. I think Leroy Sané can win a match. I think these guys
was
can do things out of the
Jamal
ordinary. And Jack, Jamal Musial, I
playing out of his
totally
skin.
forgot about him. He can win them. I think
Yeah,
I, Bayern Munich have more individual match winners than Man City overall. But
I
as
just,
but as a
I just think there's a considerable. I'm picking Bayern, by the way. I'm taking Bayern. I'll explain
okay,
why in a second. But like, it just scares me. I think you and I can break down all the stuff. We could get a board out, and we could explain why we think certain things are going to happen. But De Bruyne can just put a ball in, and you go, he has no right to hit a ball like that, and it will just fall on Haaland's head from a yard away, and he'll score. That's what those guys are capable of. It's
but
just
but
it's outside of tactical operation. Whereas
but
as much
also
as
Jack,
those guys you said
oh,
are match winners and stuff, and I agree with you. I just think like Haaland, Erling Haaland's operating on a different level, and Kevin De Bruyne is an alien. You know, these it's different. It's different. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
you mentioned Erling Haaland, and the one thing about Erling Haaland is that big, strong guy, physically opposing, all that sort of stuff there. But Upamecano, Jack, has come on leaps and bounds
Yeah,
this year.
and freak athlete too. If you want to keep
This
up
is what I'm
speed and
saying, Jack.
strength with Haaland,
You know,
he's your guy.
I would say in the box for some weird reason the ball's a magnet to him. But if you talk about 1v1 him and Haaland, I know there is a video of Haaland absolutely bodying him. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. Like I've seen that, but Upamecano does know how to deal with Erling Haaland. He does have the lit to deal with there. Two very, very, very good Jack centre back to he has to deal with there.
Havard
Another
could
one
play in
Jack,
that
that we
three as
failed.
well.
You know, another one that we failed to mention there. You talk about freak athletes. Obviously, Man City have one in in a Carl Walker.
Yeah,
Imagine this, Jack.
true. Yeah.
Carl Walker versus Alfonso Davis, man.
Oh, that's gonna be sick.
Both
'Cause
going
well, we know
on
where
both
Davies is
sides.
going.
You know, like Jack, the matchup is actually
It's
beautiful,
sick. It
Jack.
is actually really
You
cool.
know,
And also,
To-
Pep knows these guys like a lot. Like, you know, you look at Muller, you look at Joshua Kimmich, you look at like, you know, a few of these guys like, you know, Joshua Kimmich is Joshua Kimmich because of Pep Guardiola. So like if
you
their
know,
best player and most influential player, arguably, I know it's not in a very sexy position, but Joshua Kimmich, Pep knows what's going to make him tick, what he likes, what he doesn't like. So it's a really interesting matchup. But James, let me give you my final reason before we move on here as to why I'm picking Bayern. You picking Bayern?
I'm picking Bayern.
Good man. Yeah, no,
Well,
me
like to
too.
be fair, I think it also depends on how Tuchel does it. Does he does he go with the back three? Does he play with Sadio Mane? Because lately I've been seeing like Mane has starts on the bench, so I don't know where he's gonna go with that.
I think Tuchel is the game changer. James, Tuchel is going to feel disrespected and fired up. You got a German back in Germany with the best team. He's got the best players, you know, exposed to him and all this kind of stuff. The only letdown, and they'll address this in the summer, I have no doubt, is a 34-year-old Choupo-Moting as your starting striker. That's a nightmare. What a downgrade from Lewandowski. I'm not trying to be rude, but Robert Lewandowski is like generational talent type guy. Choupo-Moting is not in the same sentence as that guy. But I think
Yeah,
Thomas Tuchel is going to be fired up to beat Pep. And again, James, going back to it, and I don't want to kind of open this conversation because we could go on here for a long time. The Man City thing with the Champions League, kind of similar with PSG to a certain extent as well. There is a little bit of a
hundred
mental
percent.
block. And I just think Bayern don't have that. And Bayern are capable of doing it. So guys, we agree across the board here. Benfica and Bayern Munich are definitely going through. James, I'm going to kick this next one off because, again, it's kind of an interesting one. Real Madrid versus Chelsea. Now, subscribers, I've said this multiple times, so you know what I'm going to say. This could be the world 11 against Real Madrid in this competition. I don't care. I'm taking Real Madrid. I really am. Despite a manager leaving, dysfunction, them not playing well, and being in the bottom half of the table in the Premier League and stuff. Obviously, I'm going to be taking Real Madrid. The only thing is, and James, I said this on a previous video. This is when Chelsea win a European Cup. It's
This is
so weird. It's
listen,
so
guys.
weird.
Breaking news. All right, we probably did. Guys, we've already did a video on it. Graham Potter is no longer Chelsea manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole disarray of it. It's obviously going to depend on who comes in, but the team who strives the best. We've said it on. I remember us doing videos when Thomas Tuchel got the job. Thinking, what are they doing? They go ahead and win the European title.
And James, could Nagelsmann come in and maybe next round if Bayern make it? I don't actually know how it's split up.
Yeah. So let's say if Bayern win, Chelsea win.
Nagelsmann for Chelsea against Tuchel with Bayern? Are you winding me up? That is wild. That is
Jack is
insane.
writing some WWE script.
Dude, for real. So, again, it's Real Madrid. It's Carlo Ancelotti. It's that midfield. It's Karim Benzema. It's Vinicius Junior. It's the heritage. It's the pedigree. It's all that stuff for Real Madrid, which is why I'm picking them. But this is what Chelsea do. This is what Chelsea do. It wouldn't surprise me. It would be ugly. It would be a nail biter. This is the kind of thing that Chelsea do. And it's not just a one-off that we've seen it. We've seen it a few times now. They've not always necessarily won it. But when this Chelsea team are dysfunctional and not doing well, they see that it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday and they start winning games and pulling stuff out. So again, I don't have too much of a tactical breakdown here in nearly every area of the pitch in terms of form, in terms of whatever. I think Real Madrid are better across the board. I really, really do. But this is just what they do sometimes. Anyway, over to you.
Jack, it's hard to argue there. You mentioned everything that like the heritage, Benzema, Vinicius, Ancelotti, Madrid. Yeah, totally agree with you there. But Chelsea are a team that's caused I'm not Bayern Munich, Real Madrid trouble for the last 2 years straight.
Right.
Knocked them out 2 years ago, and last year it took an absolute miracle, crazy comeback to beat Chelsea in the second leg. Chelsea are a team that
was a good game.
It was a good Jack. It was it was a great game.
Yeah.
Chelsea are weapons to destroy and hurt Real Madrid. And one of the big things that people forgot that is back and is going to be available for the game is N'Golo Kante. And what N'Golo Kante did, yeah, I don't understand. I do understand he didn't play that well last season, but when he's on it and he's able to outwork the midfield of a Cruz, of a Modric, yes, yes, they keep the ball better than him, but he has the ability to win off them. And when he's able to outwork them, and then maybe you can have a player like Enzo pulling the strings and getting the ball forward to, I don't know how, well, first of all, we don't know who is going to be in charge with Chelsea. But let's just say if he starts off with a Sterling up front, he maybe has a João Felix, a Mudryk, and goes a little bit more direct with it. You never know.
Well, James,
balls in behind.
Reece James and Chilwell bombing on as well out wide. I do look at that as a potential area of weakness where Chelsea could exploit too.
Jack, another huge thing that you forgot to take into consideration there. The second leg is at Stamford Bridge. So you've seen Real Madrid being able to, for instance, do damage or take damage in the first leg, knowing that the second leg is at their house, in 9 times out of 10, at their house, they get the job done. Yep. The last time Chelsea did beat Real Madrid, they were able to get a result. Yes, it wasn't at the Bernabeu. It was it was at a training ground. They were able to get a result at Madrid, took it to Stamford Bridge, and think about it, they were able to get the job done. The psychological part of knowing that, what happens if Real Madrid don't get a positive result in the first leg, Jack, and they have to go to the Bridge in the second leg, knowing that there's no away goals? That is massive.
Yeah.
Something that we need to take into consideration there. But as you said, Jack, it's 14. It's white.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know.
It's Los
But
Bancos.
but like if we do start kind of breaking, like I do look at, like, I know this wouldn't necessarily be it. You got an experienced Koulibaly. You've got a really experienced Thiago Silva. If Kante's back, like you can very
Yeah,
easily start talking yourself into it if you want to. Like James, João Felix is going to be motivated. He's going to have a poker playing Real Madrid, right? Um, you know, I, I don't know if it
yeah,
Is Nagelsmann going to be able to bring the best out of somebody like Kai Havertz, right? Like you can easily start talking yourself into it, but you've just said you've made all the right newses there. It's white,
but
it's an Adidas kit. it's
listen,
it's Real
Jack.
Madrid.
Listen, as you said, it's Real Madrid, but we have to look at it from the real state. Chelsea don't have a manager right now. We don't
No,
know who's going to be in charge. For all we know, Chelsea might just have their caretaker be in charge for the rest of their
right.
season. So it's so hard to it's so hard to predict. And Jack, secondly, what you have to take a look at is form. And Chelsea's form, Jack, going
It's
into this
appalling. Hmm.
game is disgusting. And you wouldn't look at a team with
But
that sort of form playing going away to the Bernabeu and think that they're going to do something
but
in two legs
new,
against the European champions, Jack.
new manager bounce, right? You can eat like this is what
Yeah,
I'm saying. You can
yeah, that's
easily
true.
start like talking yourself into it. That's what I'm saying. And also, like, again, another thing that I just think of, Luis Enrique. There's going to be another guy who's going to be fired up to try and beat Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti's obviously managed Chelsea as well. There's lots of interesting storylines in the Champions League this year, which I'm loving. But yeah, guys, listen, we'll move on. James and I are picking Real Madrid, of course we are. But I think what we're trying to get across to you and we're trying to tell you is everyone will tell you Real Madrid win this easily. Guys, we have said this about Chelsea before. They are capable when they're playing horse, you know what, to pull this kind of stuff out. And again, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have this dumb look on my face talking to James about how Chelsea managed to do it because Real Madrid hit the bar 50 times, but it could happen.
And I'm just going to remind you guys, Chelsea have won the Champions League twice. The two times that they've won the Champions League, they've sacked their managers during that season. Yeah, bear in mind, Chelsea probably sacked their managers in most
Every
seasons,
year.
but,
Yeah, that's right.
but they
Um,
sacked their managers and they got the job done. In fact, they've sacked two just to make sure. I think
mm,
I think Potter
the,
was I think Bowley was thinking, you know what, if I sack this one, that might guarantee me, the Champions League there. But
doubling down. But yeah, anyway, fascinating game. Fascinating game.
100%.
It's the one I'm kind of most interested in. As much as the Man City Bayern one is a blockbuster, it's the one I'm personally most interested in. Right, James, we'll move on to the last game. And again, another really kind of interesting one, especially after results today. I'll have you start off the kind of breakdown on this one. Milan versus Napoli, an all Italian affair here. And also, three Italian teams in these games. It's looking like probably an Italian team of some description, maybe in the final for the first time
I mean,
in however long. Who have you got in Milan versus Napoli? And is it as easy a breakdown as you think it is?
no, it's not. It's not because if you look at Serie A, the fact of the manager is the difference between Napoli and Milan is 20 points, Jack. 20 points. Yeah, I mean, like Napoli are going to win the Serie A by counter, Jack. It hasn't even been close this year. Yeah, they've absolutely dominated. People have fell in love with the way that they've played. Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia. They're listen. That was first of all, that was a terrible way
I know
of
who
me
you
pronouncing
meant.
that. But as I said, people have just fell in love with what they've been able to do this year. But Jack, to me, you got to look at everything. Yeah, and as we're talking right now, they just played a match, yeah? Napoli were at home and they got battered 4-0 by AC Milan. AC Milan were able to hit them on the counter attack with Diaz, think about it, with Rafael Leao, and they just listen, they beat the brakes off them
Yep.
4-0. And this isn't a league match. This is two separate games, home and away. There's another thing that we also have to take into consideration here, Jack. Heritage. Granted, it's been a while since
I was going to say it's some
you know,
dead heritage, it's some wounded heritage.
but but it's still there. Here's a
Yep.
side who have seven for a reason, Jack. Yeah, the San Siro. We know the magic of the San Siro. Or well, I guess us guys, maybe people a bit younger don't know how special the San Siro is. But But AC Milan have something special.
Yeah,
You know, they haven't been great. Like watching the game against Tottenham, it wasn't great. It wasn't nothing to be inspired about. But they do have something that can really upset this Napoli team in a Champions League affair. We're not talking about what's happened in the league this year because overall Napoli have has dominated it, but they do have something to upset Napoli. But how can I look away from what Napoli have done this year, Jack?
exactly.
They have been the darlings of football. And the biggest thing for me with them is that how are they going to deal with this pressure? Because now the whole world expects them to get to a Champions League final,
And
and
they've
it's
not,
like before it
and
was
they've
like
not. Yep. Hmm.
before it was like, oh, Napoli cool, can't wait to play them difficult team. Get there, and the hardest thing in this life is to deal with expectation, and let's see how they deal with it. But I'm gonna go with them. I'm gonna believe that what they've been able to do in Serie A has been magic, and they've been able to reflect that in the Champions League this season. So I'm going to say that they're going to go through. But Jack, I don't know how you feel about it.
Look, I'm going to agree with you. Um, that game today, I think will have a lot of people worried. You look at that, you go, oof, where was it? In Naples. Oof, like that's not good. What happened? Like, were loads of players not playing? It's like, not really. It was kind of about right for the kind of game you'd have expected it to have been. This Milan team at points in this season have played really well, to a point where you've kind of thought, man, they're back. And I think I even said this to you, James, at one point. The most dangerous flank in European football at one point for me was that left side for Milan. Theo Hernandez, Rafael Leao, like that is the attacking threat on that
Hmm.
side is insane. But what I think started to happen, you've got a lot of players who were kind of getting their flowers, getting their credit, and then I think they started looking elsewhere. There was lots of Fabrizio Romano, like so and so's agent talks about this, talks about that, and this happens a lot in football. A lot happens, and
100%.
again, I do recommend everybody do your kind of personal research outside of just what you see on in the lines and in the matches, because guys, these are human beings with goals and aspirations and families to look after, and all this kind of stuff. So again, that does have its impact. I do look at though Kvaratskhelia, Victor Osimhen, right? These guys have just been playing brilliant. Even somebody like, Tanguy and Ndombele, James. Zielinski's been really, really good as well. Like, largely speaking, been really, really good, really reliable player as well.
And
You know,
also, Anguissa,
yeah.
He's been phenomenal.
It's a long way from Fulham, I'll tell you that. And also like Kim Min Jae as well. Obviously, he's getting a lot of credit at the moment and a lot of interest in him. It's just a better team. The reason why, and I kind of went off on a tangent. Um, the reason why I'm ignoring the result today, guys. Napoli have won the league. They've won the league. They're not going to like overexert themselves there. They can pick up some wins against teams that are far worse than they are. But pride, should it have been 4-0? Probably not. But I'm not going to worry about it. When you hear that Champions League music going, you're going to get you locked in again, ready to go. However, this Milan team are capable. Olivier Giroud is still a good player and a good goal scorer. Zlatan is still there, as mental as it seems. I'm not saying he's going to be the game changer in this thing. In a
Oh,
dressing room, coming on as a sub, like this, he's got kind of that Cristiano Ronaldo vibe of like, if you bring him on in 80 minutes, he'll score a back post header, man.
Jack, I'm just going to put it out there. If
Yeah.
AC Milan are able to win this, could you imagine Zlatan Ibrahimovic playing in the Champions League final? The one thing that people have hammered him about not being able to do.
But they've got, Tonali's a nice player. Ismail Benacer is a good player. Again, people have gone quiet on Fikayo Tomori. Fikayo Tomori is still playing really, really good football, right? So again, this Milan team are dangerous, but you look at form, and I just think everything's going their way at the moment. Everything's going their way. And again, I hate to say this as well because it was a bit up and down while he was at Roma, but it's nice for Luciano Spalletti. I want to see him like do well and achieve something with this team because James, this Napoli team is going to be torn to shreds this summer. It absolutely will. In terms of a matchup, the difficulty is going to be, will the likes of Tonali, will the likes of Benacer, and even Brahim Diaz, is he going to have to drop a little deeper? Are they going to be able to contain the attacking parts of Zielinski, Kvaratskhelia, and then Osimhen running through? I don't think so. I just don't think they're going to have it in them. But that left flank for Milan, Di Lorenzo is going to have the game of his life at right back. And he's played really, really well this year, to be fair, but he's going to have the game of his life to do it. I'm picking Napoli, but similarly to quite a lot of these games, if Milan can put it together, we saw them today. They beat them in Naples 4-0. It is a scary one.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm
Oh,
buzzing.
Jack,
I can't wait.
Jack. Like as I said, when the draw was made, people were a bit annoyed with the fact of, oh, you one side's really like really strong, the other side isn't. But Jack, listen, the matchups are beautiful.
They
Napoli,
actually are.
AC Milan. Listen, I want to see that.
Yeah.
Like Benfica, granted, not everyone knows about them. But Jack, when you look at what they've done this year, they've been one of the best teams in Europe, and obviously the two big clashes there. I'm so looking forward to all these ties, but
It's also kind of like as well. It's kind of nice to not have Barcelona. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of nice to have a couple of these teams missing. It's kind of nice to have some of these kind of guys like getting their rewards for their good football this season. But anyway,
hundred
guys at
percent.
home, let us know what you think. James and I have gone through it. We've unfortunately agreed on every single result. So we're either going to look really, really smart or really, really stupid here. But again,
Oh my
we
days.
weren't going to like just try and change it just for the sake of it. Like, look, these are mine and James's honest opinions. We want to hear your honest opinions. Drop them down in the comments. Drop a like on the video if you like what you've seen as well. And if you're not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. James, anything else from you, mate?
Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Let us know who you think is gonna go through, and me and Jack will see you next time.